And that's all it is right now, is just another option that can be considered now that the safety restrictions have loosened a little bit in terms of the distancing that is required of our students. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Buck Rogeman, and I'm the principal of Forest Grove. And I am here with my esteemed partner.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Sean Keller, the principal at Robertstown Elementary School. I wanted to thank Mr. Mejia for setting up this meeting last minute and for also running the meeting and admitting everyone. And also welcome to our superintendent, Dr. Ralph Porras. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Dr. Porras, maybe a couple words of greeting.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Both of you appreciate getting this together. I know we've had lots of conversation over the last day or so, just in terms of taking a look at some other options that are available. And certainly want to make sure that we also thank all of the staff members at the sites, classified and certificated as well. Just a lot of work, a lot of angst, a lot of nervousness, a lot of worry for our students and each other, all of which are all right and proper. And just trying to find the right path through all of this. Appreciate all the parents attending and listening in. And we'll continue to suss out some of the best solutions we can for the problems that are set before us. So, gentlemen, I really appreciate you hosting this evening for us.
Absolutely, and we're happy to do so. You know, I think that some of that nervousness and stress that we feel is all just a great sign of how much that we all care. You know, we have people that are devoted to their jobs, and most importantly, devoted to our students. And we know that all of you are teaching and working with your hearts. And parents, the partnership that we've formed this year is something that we really value too. So we know that everybody has a stake in the decisions that we're talking about. And the reason why we wanted to call this town hall is because we have a survey coming out about another option that we can consider now as a district, since the safety requirements have lessened. And Mr. Keller, I don't know if you want to share your screen or if I should share mine for the presentation.
I'll go ahead and share, Mr. Rogeman.
What's that?
I'll go ahead and share.
Perfect. We should probably start to number these, Mr. Keller. I think that this is part two at least. So yes, that we're going to have a town hall. And Mr. Keller, if you can go to the next slide, maybe you can. We'll get things started. So really, the main purpose of our meeting is that we want to explain an extended day hybrid program to our parents, because after this meeting is over, we're going to send out a survey. And we want our parents to be as informed as they possibly can as they get ready to respond to the survey. It's going to be very similar to the survey that we sent out before, but we wanted to be able to talk through the program before we just send out that survey.
And why consider going to an extended day? Well, again, on Saturday, the new California Department of Public Health guidelines reduced the recommended separation from 6 feet between students in classrooms to 3. And obviously this allows more students per classroom. And the Monterey County daily new COVID case rate is below 25 cases per 100,000. Today, the new number was released at 3.8 per 100,000.
And also, why now? Well, why now is that we're in the process of making the transition from distance learning only to an in-person program. And so as we're looking at the in-person program, when there's another model or another option that becomes available, we want to get the input as soon as we can so that these decisions can be made in as timely a manner as possible. With time running out in the school year, we want to decide which program is going to be the best one for going back to school. Add to that the start date that the board has set for our TK and first grade program as next Tuesday in the AM/PM hybrid model. If we are going to make a shift away from that model, we need to know as soon as possible so that we can make all of the adjustments that we have to in order to accommodate that change. And also, one of the things that we would like to do, if possible, is to choose a program that's going to last for the duration of the school year. Although the way things change, I think we thought that we were doing that last time. So flexibility has been key.
So the proposed extended day schedules, if we were to move into this model for TK and Kinder, would be to start at 8:50. They would have structured play. And for now, we're recommending through our Kinder teams and TK team to have a dismissal at noon. And this is really for the social emotional well-being of our little ones. We want to make sure that it's not overwhelming. It's something that we've done in the past just to get them going. This could change, but we want to kind of take a temperature to see how they're doing it first, for sure. For first and second grade, they also will start at 8:50. They would also have structured play at 10 o'clock to 10:20, and they would have a lunch. So this is the difference between the AM, PM, and the extended day. We would provide a 45-minute lunch for first through fifth grades. And for first and second grades, the dismissal is at 1:50. For third through fifth grades, we would have a 9:10 start with structured play from 10:30 to 10:50. And again, they would have a lunch from 12:15 to 1, and their dismissal would be at 2:10. Having these later start times compared to the AM, PM, we were discussing with our intervention team that they need more time in the morning, just in case if kids want to receive instruction from them at home, so they can then transition to the campuses at both Forest Grove and Robert Down.
The weekly schedule remains very similar to what we're doing now in terms of maintaining that asynchronous day of instruction on Mondays. It's going to be distance learning for all students. So even the students that are attending that extended day program would still be at home doing distance learning and asynchronous activities on that Monday. As you can imagine, one of the things that we want to maintain is that alignment between the distance learning only classes as well as the hybrid classes, whichever hybrid model that we wind up in. And so that Monday is going to be critical for teachers having that time to plan together and to maintain alignment with the content that we'll be teaching for these final 7 or 8 weeks of the school year. And then Tuesday through Friday, we would be on the extended day schedule.
So you can see that the minutes have increased significantly from the AM/PM model. With TK and Kinder, they would increase up to 190 minutes. And for first through fifth grade, they would go, I believe, from 180 up to 255 minutes for those grade levels.
Right, Mr. Killen. One of the things that we did was we did include the structured playtime in those minutes, but what we did not include was the lunch period. So that would be time spent either in class time or doing the structured play activities during that snack structured play break. Wanted to give you an idea of what a model classroom would look like. And so what you see here is a classroom with 22 desks in it. And those desks are, the seating areas are separated by more than three feet side by side. I wanted to say that when we measured it, it came out closer to 40 to 41 inches. And then the area between the rows, like the front to back spacing, was closer to 5 feet. So we are able to maintain the 3 foot distance and build our classes up to 22 desks as shown in this room. Just want to give you a visual of what that 3 feet of separation looks like inside of a class.
So for the structured play, and each morning it will be 20 minutes long. We will have a snack and play outdoors when possible, weather permitting. And we'll have the separate play activities for each class, rotated on a daily, and I know for myself, a weekly basis. And classes will have their own equipment, which is wiped down after use by staff.
And at lunchtime, our TK and kindergarten students would be receiving that option to have the grab and go lunch delivered to their classroom at the end of the school day. For the first and second grade students, their lunch then would be on the playground that would occur at the earlier lunch period, the one that begins at 11:30. We would serve the students their school lunches outside when the weather permitted. When the weather did not, the students would eat lunch in their classrooms, and then we would take them out to any covered areas or protected areas that we have on campus, so they can at least get a little bit of movement and some fresh air before spending the remainder of the day in the classrooms. One of the things that we are going to do is have one adult supervisor assigned to each class to help maintain the cohorts. We will divide our playground into as many areas as we need to support the classes. At Forest Grove, when it was the first and second grade lunch period, we would need 4 sections of our playground. When it's our 3rd through 5th grade, we would need 7 sections of our playground. So we're looking at putting 2 of them on the upper field, 3 on the 2nd level, and then 2 more on the 1st level for the busiest lunch that we would have. We feel that this provides the amount of spacing that we would need in order to keep the children separated. And then also the amount of supervision would be sufficient, knowing that we had 1 adult per group of students. The kindergarten, when they do their structured play activity, they would also be divided to 3 different areas on that kindergarten playground. We're thinking the swing set for 1 group, the play structure for another, and then the court and grass for a 3rd. And then what we would do is day by day, we would rotate the students through these areas so that no group gets stuck doing the same thing every single day.
Yeah, and the breakdown at Robert Down is pretty much the same. We also have 4 groups in the primary. We'll have 3 groups in kinder, and the kinder team will be taking care of their students during their structured time. For the intermediate grades, we have 8 actually on our campus. So I will be working with staff tomorrow to designate areas, but they will be spread out. And we also will have Carrie Gaylor, who will be working with students in our garden as well on a rotation.
We wanted to kind of give an overview of the program and kind of let the questions drive our discussion for the night. So we are happy to answer any of the questions that you might have. If you were at our last town hall and heard us go through all of the safety procedures that are going to be in place, all of that remains the same. The face coverings, the temperature checks at the gates, people coming into the different gates around campus. All of that is going to remain the same, in addition to the hand washing when students are entering and leaving the classes, and that kind of thing. So, Mr. Keller, I think you can probably go ahead and turn the presentation off, and we will start to look at our participants who are raising their hands. And I would like to start with Heloisa.
Okay, hi everybody. I was just wondering, the 2nd grade group of kids at Robert Down is the largest group for the school. Are you able to keep just 22 class, maintaining that same distance that Mr. Rogeman showed at the 2nd grade classes?
Yeah, currently we have 26 and 27. We'll see if that changes in the new survey. I've talked to the 2nd grade team and also with human resources about utilizing an instructional assistant in a 3rd classroom next door to Mrs. Johnson's room. The 2nd grade team of Ms. Johnson and Ms. Gilmore would like to stay in their rooms to be able to utilize all of their current equipment. And we think that's a pretty good plan moving forward. If the survey responses come back and those increase from 26 and 27, we'll have to possibly think of plan B or C. But for now, we're hoping that we can rotate the kids in smaller groups in a different classroom with an instructional assistant for the following 8 weeks.
And Ms. Boynes is next.
Thank you. Can you elaborate on the exposure protocols and if there's a potential exposure in the classroom, what that would look like for the couple days following the exposure?
Sure. I'm not sure if Nurse Powley is here, but she would be the best one to speak to that, as she's the one that kind of manages our response when we have an exposure, and she's the one who coordinates with the Monterey County Health Department to talk about what the appropriate response would be. In general terms, once we have a student that is feeling ill, both of the campuses have a room that has been designated on our campus that is set aside for students who are feeling ill. And it is a room that is otherwise not occupied throughout the day. So no additional people would be exposed to a COVID case should we find out that the student does have COVID. At that point, we would do a health assessment of the student and contact the family for the student to go home. If the symptoms that the student has shown are consistent with COVID-19, we would recommend to the family that the student get tested. And then when we get confirmation of a COVID case, that is when we would need to follow the health department guidelines for the appropriate measures to take with regard to the classroom. If the students have been exposed, then there's the possibility that that classroom would have to be emptied, and the students in that group would need to quarantine for up to 14 days if they've had close contact. If the test comes back negative, then obviously we would not have to do that, and the student would be allowed to return to school when they're 24 hours symptom free without the use of any kind of over-the-counter meds. And so that kind of gives you an idea of the steps that we follow. Once again, all of that is managed by our district nurse.
Mr. Rugman?
Yes.
Mr. Rugman, just to quickly, we're also going to be dropping the link for the COVID safety plan into the chat box on this, and anyone can find that plan right on the district website under the COVID reopening page. The COVID safety plan is a hefty document, good night reading there, but you can check it out, go in there, and that will tell you all of the protocols that we have in place, including the protocols that Mr. Rugman just reviewed.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. Julie Roth.
Hello. So at the beginning, you said this was a potential plan. So I'm assuming there are a few steps. Is that what the school board meeting on Thursday is going to approve, as well as figuring out the potential maybe rearranging of rostering? Is that what we're waiting for to implement this plan?
Yes, that the survey that we're sending out is intended for us to be able to see how our current rosters for the AM/PM hybrid model compare to rosters that we would need to develop if this plan were implemented. We don't know if there's going to be a movement of students from distance learning to an extended day model, or if there's going to be movement from the AM/PM hybrid to distance learning if this were the model that we chose. So that's going to be the nature of the survey, is to find out if you were choosing between distance learning and an extended day hybrid plan, which one you would choose. We've added another question that of the two in-person programs, which one would you prefer as a parent? So the first question would be distance learning or extended day. And then the second question is, if my preference is for in-person, would it be hybrid or extended day? So that's really going to be the key for the survey. And then yes, there's going to be a board meeting on Thursday night where we are going to gauge our readiness for this program, and then also come forward with a recommendation to the board and gather the input not only from our parents but from our staff, and make sure that we're going through the proper process before we make a transition.
Thank you.
Sure. Sabrina O'Neill.
Yes, good evening. I just wanted to, for you to know if it was possible to clarify how the children will be seated for snack and for lunch, if there will be specific spots where they will be seated and how they will be distanced from one another while eating, since they will have their mask removed.
Yeah, we'll have 6-foot distancing in between the students. And for, at least during the structured playtime, both Mr. Rogerman and I have identified areas for a class to go to. For the snack portion, it would, again, we don't want kids to choke, so we'll ask them to eat their snack quickly before playing. We have in the primary area at Robert Down, we have 6 areas identified for primary. And we have 10, but 11 including the garden if you talk about lunch. So we have at least 10 for structured play, and then we add an 11th for lunchtime.
And the way that we picture that at Forest Grove is that either we will bring out seating in terms of folding chairs for the 7 classes that we have and separate those by 6 feet, and then when it's time to play, we can fold our chairs back up and put them back on our racks. Also, we have seating areas around the play structure and along the wall on second level that we could access. So I would imagine that on that for our busier lunch, our larger lunch, which would probably have in the neighborhood of about 140 students, that we would put about 70 of them on the first level and then another 70 on that second level, and bring our food distribution out to the playground for those people that are getting a school lunch. Take about 15 minutes to eat. That sometimes is way more time than our students need. Some of them eat super fast so they can play longer, but we'll make sure that they eat for at least 15 minutes, and that'll open up a good 20 to 25 minutes for them to get to play in that structured activity area. That's the way that we envision lunch. The details will become more apparent when we're actually doing it. So, Frank.
Thanks, Mr. Rogerman. Thanks, Mr. Keller. You might have touched on this with your first question, so I apologize if I'm repeating it. But I'm just curious if the teachers are going to have support, and for how long? Is it just during basic skills, or is it going to be throughout the day? And then my second question is, I'm just curious what structured play is, like what that looks like. Thank you.
Well, just so everyone knows, the kinder team will have their instructional assistants with them for the entire time at both campuses, including, I'm assuming, Mr. Rogerman TK at Forest Grove.
Correct.
And we're still building how our instructional assistants will work within this format. Our outstanding intervention and special ed teams have already built something for our AM PM, and obviously we're asking them to pivot if this were to be adopted. I know for my instructional assistants, I'm meeting with them this Thursday to finalize how they're going to support classes. More than likely, they will remain virtual because we can't have them mixing. If any updates are provided by the CDC or California Department of Health, we can make adjustments from there. But for right now, it's that adults shouldn't be mixing with the other cohorts. So we're trying to keep them separated with virtual support, Frank.
Right, Mr. Keller, thank you for mentioning that. I think also the thing we don't want to overlook as well is that our instructional aides are also going to be supporting the distance learning program that remains in place. And they're going to be an important conduit between the two, that they'll be the adults that are going to be serving children that are in both of the areas. As far as the structured play goes, think of it as they're going to be organized games and activities that the children are going to be doing, rather than a typical recess period where the children just kind of, well, they run around and play and act like kids for a half an hour. So that's one of the things that, you know, is going to have to be a little bit more structured than it normally is. We have to make sure that they stay with their group. And the best way to make them stay with their group is to get them all playing a game outside. So we'll have different games and activities located in different areas of the field. And we'll also have an adult there that's going to help to manage those. All right, Laurel.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Keller, Mr. Rogoman, for taking on this tonight. I'm going to touch, I just have a question regarding this survey. How will that, the decisions be made? So if we have chosen already to go back and now we make a decision to go back one way or the other, is it going to be based on a percentage? Is it going to be based on a grade level? Is it going to be based on the school? Or are we going in all of us together as Pacific Grove as a unit? So as we're making our decisions, I'm just curious as how that is all going to be evaluated.
So Laura, when you come to that first question, when it's asking you to choose between distance learning and the extended day, imagine that that was the only option that you had, okay? Because from that, what we would do is build the rosters for an extended day program. The second question is really designed to give us a read on which the parents and which our families would prefer. Would you prefer this AM/PM model that we've kind of had in place and built throughout the entire year? I think it's important to recognize too that in that AM/PM model, you'll have the in-person instruction in the morning, but there will also be support in the afternoon if you're a morning student. So some of the services that we provide dovetail better in that AM/PM model, like our special ed services, students that are getting speech and OT. We've spent hours upon hours upon hours building those schedules, and we've got them built now so all of our students can receive all of our services. We are going to need to rebuild that schedule if we wound up going with an extended day model. And we'll be 100% honest, we are going to have to figure out the way that we're able to do that. Because at first blush, it's really difficult for us to find that time. So we're going to have to start looking at creative ways for us to deliver those special services should we go with this extended day model. It just becomes a lot more complicated for us than that AM/PM model. I hope I've answered the question though. And so the way the decision is ultimately going to be made, and the reason why we want people to make that choice is so that we have a gauge as to what the preference is out there in our elementary school community. But to say that this is going to be a flat vote, I don't think is an accurate description of what we're going to do. It's going to be one of many factors that we consider. And I see you raised your hand back up, Laurel, so you can keep on asking the question.
Okay, thank you. Actually, you a little bit summarized it at the very end. So it's not going to be a percentage necessarily. It's going to be taking in multiple factors. And is all of those multiple factors, are we going all in this as one community, or are the schools going to be different?
We're going to be the same. Yet that's the reason why we're hosting it as a group. So we are not going to run one program at Forest Grove and run a different one at Robert Down. Okay. We want to make sure that it's an equitable experience across the district. Yeah, so that's the reason why we want to hear from all of our families and kind of see where we land. And it's going to be one of many, many factors, you know, the level of preparedness, the time that we're looking at starting. Those are all going to be things that have to be factored in to come up with the best decision for our families, our students, and you know, our staff.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, my last question is timing wise. So we'll take the survey between now and tomorrow. We have Thursday, the board meeting. When do you foresee this as a decision? Because I know as a family trying to plan for this is something that we all need to do as well. I know you don't have an exact answer, but when do you think that we might be let know what the decision is made?
Excellent question. You know, a couple things. One is we wanted to send the survey out and get the results back quickly so that if we were charged with turning this around in a really fast amount of time, that we would be in a position where we'd be able to do so. It doesn't mean that this would have to start on next Tuesday, that's a discussion that we need to have with the school board. And then we need to be able to advise them, the school admin, our level of preparedness, and give them an estimate of when we could go to an extended day if that is the decision that we wind up making. I'm also going to let the superintendent kind of weigh in on this, because when you're talking about the timing and the start of an educational program, Dr. Porras, I think that is a great thing for you to comment on as well. Unless he left. In that case, it's a great thing for me to comment on. So, when he pops back on, then we can talk a little bit more about timing. Okay. Thank you, Laurel. Next up, we have Ms. Golnaz.
Hello, Mr. Rogaman. How are you?
I'm doing great. And how about yourself?
Thank you so much. So thank you for hosting this. I think it's the more we hear about what's going on, the better it is, and the more informed decisions we can make. The question I have for you is, since you mentioned that the planning for the AM/PM has been taking so long, and it's already ready to go, do you have a list of rosters, hypothetical rosters that we can take a look at and see what those classrooms would have looked like? And you might have already covered this, but is there a certain amount of students for the AM/PM, and what about the full day? And then the last one is more of a comment, not a question, and that is that I wish that teachers, the faculty, I know that they're stressed, and so are the parents. And the more back and forth we go with this uncertain circumstances, the harder it gets. And in all honesty, we're only talking about 7 weeks of instruction. So, I mean, it would be nice if if the Band-Aid was ripped off and a decision was made, and then we'd all know what we're supposed to do, rather than going back and forth. So thank you for that. Over. And I hope that you have an answer for my first question.
Sure. That as far as the rosters go, we sent a copy of those rosters last week to families. So if you didn't get one, I'm happy to send a copy of that to you, and that gives you a good approximation of how many people had chosen the hybrid program as opposed to the distance learning program. Most of the classes at Forest Grove for the hybrid program came out in the neighborhood of 20 students. Some are a student or two lower, others are a student or two higher. That we had a pretty consistent average across the board for the hybrid. So my initial estimate for an extended day would be similar, but the reason why we're sending out that survey is to see if those estimates would change in a significant manner. If they are, then a little bit more planning would have to take place, especially if it were to affect our staffing. Like if we needed to adjust teaching assignments to fit the results that we saw. But I also want to, acknowledge the last statement that you made, because I think that everyone that is working in schools is right along with you like that we would love for some certainty to be present. And what's been one of the greatest challenges this year is that things have been changing constantly, and it's taken a lot of patience and perseverance on the part of, not only our families, but also our staff. And so we certainly feel that same anxiety and stress that you mentioned. And we are, working through that as we look at what's going to be the best program for us to finish up these 7 weeks, like you mentioned. Okay. Thank you. Sarah Burkett.
Hi there. I want to say thank you, because I know everybody's working super hard, and I do appreciate that. And having all these changes is, I don't know. I'm not one that likes change very much, and I've had so much this year. I think we all have that. it's crazy. Anyhow, we're all going through the same thing together here. But I was hoping that you could share the presentation that you already shared tonight. If you can send that as an email or make it available, because my husband's driving home and I would like to talk to him about it before we try to fill out this survey. And I was also wondering, once you have the surveys back, if there's a way to share how many students and faculty will be on campus for each site at one time, the new plan versus the hybrid plan. So we have a better estimate of how many students are on site and our child might be exposed to. And
We sure can. In fact, we're required by the state to do that every week now, that we have to send them a count of the number of students as well as the number of staff members that are on campus. And you can let your husband know who is driving. We're going to have a recording of the meeting available first thing in the morning that we're going to send out to all of our families. And we can include the presentation with the survey. Okay?
thank you. And one last thing, I just want to know, this survey for sure is just a survey and not our commitment one way or the other. Like we're not committing to.
So look at it this way. When you answer that distance learning or extended day hybrid, that would be a commitment if that's the program that the district chose. The second question is your preference, AM/PM model or extended day. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I wish it was a little different than that because we're making choices without all the information. We're making the choices before a board meeting. And so, and I realize that everybody wants to start school Monday, or we are starting school Monday, but sometimes having more information helps guide the choices that we'd make. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Yeah, I appreciate that comment. All right, Mr. Keller, I'll let you kind of take over the Master of Ceremonies role.
Sure. I believe Mr. Elliot Hazen is next. Sorry.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself there. I had two quick questions, and these are both follow-up from what was asked for hybrid, but would also potentially help with the decision-making. The first would just be, there is now a little bit larger gap between times of siblings. Is there any plan for allowing siblings to go to school together, or would those require separate drop-offs? And secondarily, I didn't know if it was in the plan of the survey to ask about whether BASRP would be of interest, if it would even be an option. But given the new 3-foot guidelines, would that be any possibility with either the hybrid or the extended day programs? And I should have said it started with, thank you guys so much for dealing so well with all this difficult flexibility.
Well, starting with the drop-off question, it's the same as AM/PM. If you have siblings, you can drop off the older sibling with the younger sibling. They can stay with the gate monitor until it's their time, obviously weather permitting. We would obviously have to make some adjustments if it starts to rain or, but we'll accommodate that, Elliot, no problem. The second piece, if you don't mind repeating, Elliot. You get unmuted. Oh, he's gone. Mr. Rogeman, I know I didn't answer both questions.
Hi, they got me just now. Sorry, it took a while. The second question was just about the BASRP and if that was going to be potentially an option, and even if there's a possibility to ask a survey question, just to see if folks would be interested in it, if it could be an option.
Well, it's definitely something that Mr. Rogeman and I will have to discuss for the survey purposes at this time. We don't have plans for BASRP. That's the same as the plans for AM/PM. I know there are many parents that need it and want it. They've made it very clear to me through emails and in previous surveys. It, to an extent, is a human resources issue with the amount of people that we need to hire. I'm hearing you, Elliot, and trust me, I've had other parents reach out to me. Personally, I would love to be able to provide that. But again, it's the The guidelines from the CDC and the California Department of Health are saying that we can't mix the kids together. And if we do, to any extent, it has to be limited to 2 exposures. And I can only imagine with BASRP, there'll be more than 2 exposures within that cohort. So unless the CDC and California Department of Health come out with other guidelines that we can work with as schools, at this point in time, we'll have to really be creative if we're going to offer any kind of BASRP at all. Okay, we have Josephine Phillips.
It's actually Tim, her husband.
Sorry, Tim.
That's all right. You know, it just seems to me like your plan is just to basically barely open the school. You guys have spent a tremendous amount of time, it seems, to just barely open the school, because I had heard that there was a plan starting next week to open it for 5 hours, 4 days a week. And it's kind of cutting back now. Is your plan, if what I've gathered, since this has been a year, so if more cases come up in the school or whatever, is that pretty much your plan then, that you're going to roll it back even further and shut the school down again? You know, since we were going to talk about 5 hours starting next week, now it's cut back until after spring break. So I guess my question is this to kind of anticipate or to slowly tread into opening up the schools? And then if there's more cases, are you guys, the two of you, whoever, going to shut the schools down again? It has been a year. It's been a year.
Yeah, Tim, again, with the trend that we shared earlier, we didn't have all the numbers, but based in Monterey County for the last, let's say, I want to say 3 weeks, the cases.
Yeah, but trends, regardless of trends, I mean, in almost every other state in the country, they not only are they open, but they actually offer whether you can come into school or you can stay home and either distance or homeschool. You know, it's pretty cut and dry. If you can come to school, if you don't want to come in for whatever reason, then you can homeschool. The state of California has, I'm sure, numerous options for that, right?
Well, within our smaller district, unfortunately, we don't have, you know, the ability to provide that, what you're asking. What I was going to say previously is that the trend has gone significantly down. And Dr. Porras last Thursday shared with the board that we're looking at opening up on a regular basis in the fall. That's the news from Sacramento. And to be quite honest with you, unfortunately, we're at the mercy of the California Department of Health, along with the Monterey County Health Department, in allowing us to be able to open up.
Mr. Keller, if I may, you know, Mr. Phillips, the AM/PM hybrid program that we were talking about was offering about 150 minutes to a student to be served either in the morning or the afternoon program. This model that we're talking about now would have students on campus for 300 minutes. So it's actually an increase in the amount of time that a student would be on campus. And that matches the lowering of the numbers. So as the numbers come down and the restrictions lessen, then this opens up the opportunity for us to have students and more students on campus for a greater amount of time. So we basically are looking at a plan that would double the amount of time that a student is on campus from the previous plans, 150 minutes to 300 in the extended day model. And we think that that it's aligned with what we're getting, you know, in terms of the numbers within the county. So that was our effort in looking at the extended day model.
So your Wednesday is, so what are you looking to do Wednesday then, or the 30th? I mean, what's the plan?
On Tuesday,
hours, not minutes.
I'm sorry.
Not minutes, but how many hours are they in school, for example?
Under the extended day model, it would be a 5-hour day. And under the hybrid model, for each student, it would be about a 2.5-hour day.
Starting the 30th, you say?
starting the 30th under the direction of the school board. So the school board on Thursday night is going to give us a direction of what our instruction should look like on the 30th for TK in first grade, on April 1st for second and third, and then on April 6th for our fourth and fifth grade students. I think our next speaker is Amanda Dahlhammer.
Hi there. I had a question. I wasn't real clear on the Mondays. Would they still be asynchronous days with this extended day plan? The second question was about busing. Will anything change? I know you addressed with the after school program, but will anything be offered with busing? And then the last question was just, so if we were to say, okay, we're going to go hybrid, we want hybrid, are we going to eventually have to make another change to go to the extended day in a few weeks? Like, is that going to be the next tier, so to speak? So those were my three questions.
Okay, Mondays, sorry, Mr. Roden, go. Mondays will remain as asynchronous with the teachers, all teachers, distance learning, and the hybrid extended day or AM/PM teacher checking in on Mondays with asynchronous work for the remainder of the day. And at this time, I do not believe our transportation department plans on providing busing. Again, they are facing the same rules. From what Mr. Kelly, and if you are here, Mr. Kelly, we'll hear you on that, but help me if I'm wrong. Based on what he shared with Mr. Rogeman and I, that the 3-foot rule doesn't adhere to busing. It's still 6 foot for busing. And
I'm here.
Okay, am I right on that, or is there a little bit more?
Yeah, it's still 6 feet, and it's exposing. It's another exposure to another cohort, which the new guidelines that came out were pretty specific on not exposing kids to another cohort. And third is we are doing special ed transportation, and we're doing that in their cohorts, which is taking more drivers than normal. So we really don't have other drivers to do a home to school route right now.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mm-hmm. And I know
I think we talked also about another program, right, Mr.
Right.
Kelly?
Yeah, she was asking about hybrid and if there would be a change. And basically, again, we want to provide the board with as much information and feedback, thus having this town hall tonight, so the board will have some feedback in order to make a decision for Thursday, because we know 20 minutes public time at the board meeting just won't be enough for this topic. So once the board provides direction Thursday, we will not deter from that direction. I do not think we will make a change after that. Okay, our next parent is Kristen Bob.
Hi. As the school is not considering reopening the before and after care program, how is your team rationalizing the inequitable options being provided to children who have a single working parent or dual working parents who want their child to go in for in-person, but can't because of the no options for aftercare? It just seems like the limiting of cohort exposure isn't very realistic considering what people are doing outside of school and all the exposure there. And then the second part of my question is, will you be seriously discussing opening up the BASRP program for the fall to make this more equitable for all children to be able to attend in person?
Well, and again, Kristen, thank you. I know you're an advocate. You've reached out to me several times. And again, I meant it when I said that I won't stop discussing with our human resources department and whether the guidelines, once they're updated and changed, whether we can change, if we can add BASRP. You can ask my superintendent and Mr. Rogaman. I've been talking about this since the summertime, and I really feel like we need to open up. So I'll be the squeaky wheel. But right now, we're being told by the state and the county that we can't open up a program like BASRP because of the mixing. I completely understand your argument about what families are doing outside. We obviously don't have the data to tell us how many families are going to after-school programs and if they're mixing, and we can only trust that that isn't happening, and we have to go forward with our plan with how the state expects us to provide a safe environment.
Next, we have Tina Tavares.
Hi, so my question is primarily about the difference between hybrid versus the extended day. So I know that with hybrid, we have the asynchronous opposite of whatever your child attends in person. But if we do go to the extended day, are we going to be using a lot of tech for that program? Because I just don't know if there's going to be a big difference in that. Like if we are doing hybrid, are these students going to be working on their Chromebooks a lot when they're in person and doing asynchronous, or are they going to be mostly off of them while they're on campus? Like, will there be a difference in that in hybrid versus extended day?
Tina, thank you for bringing that up. That our intention is for our teachers who are teaching the students live, either in the hybrid or the extended day, it can continue teaching the same content standards as the distance learning program is. So we would remain aligned. What that instruction looks like when it's live would be different than what it looks like when the students are doing it in a virtual format. So if you could imagine like a math lesson, a typical math lesson that your son has, that lesson format would be the same in the classroom as it is in a virtual format, but it would be done live without a screen. So it's not like he's going to log on and watch math instruction on a computer. He would be live being taught that math in person. So what we're going to try to do is limit the screen time as much as we can for the hybrid program. That's one of the advantages of being live and in person. And it's not to say that there won't be any. I could still see the Chromebooks being used when students are doing writing, especially in the upper grades. There still might be use of things like Padlet to show work and that kind of thing. And then when there's the asynchronous assignments, I think that's when you would see the tech being emphasized again. When the students are back home doing the distance learning, that's when there'll be an emphasis on tech. But we want to get the students back to interacting with each other and with the teacher in the class as much as possible for the instructional day.
Okay, our next question is from Jennifer Mewis.
Thank you.
Be doing the lesson and actually finishing that in their math book, and then.
Sorry, Jennifer, if you can start again.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, first of all, sorry, I just kind of lost my train of thought. Let's see. So there's a few questions from our family, and it's kind of my job to be the talking head. Unfortunately, it's not really the best person to be, but I have compassion for both of you, Mr. Keller and Mr. Roseman. So first of all, I'm speaking on behalf of my entire family, and my entire family consists of 2 adults and then 2 young people who are 11 and under. And so I'm going to start with their questions and give them some empowerment and a voice in this discussion. And so first of all, one question from one of these young people who has heard of this community is, I just appreciate that the voice being already answered that. We apologize. We came on it a little after 6 when we were having dinner here. But thanks for your patience. One question is, why do teachers need to be 6 feet away and kids 3 feet away? Yes, the CDC, but we're all kind of human incubators, so why? And I just want to preface that with kind of removing myself as the messenger. Don't choose the messenger because, you know, I think the thing is that we as teachers, we as parents, etc., administrators, like, we all do our part. We're a piece of the puzzle and we try and, you know, add our part. But, you know, sometimes it's nice just to have an extra voice outside of ourselves. So it's just not all on us. So that's one question. I don't know if you want me to ask more.
Well, let me answer that one quickly, Jennifer, if I can, and help me again, Buck, if I'm off base. But from my understanding, with the science that the CDC is using and the studies that they're looking at in order to say that students can be 3 feet from each other in the classroom, and let's say not adults, for example, is that it's children as a whole have not been spreading COVID. Again, that's what I'm gathering from the articles and the information from the CDC, and that it's adults who are spreading it more so than children. So that's my assumption is why they're saying that kids are safer to be among each other, and that the adults around them need to remain 6 feet from the children and also from each other.
Okay, I appreciate that. It's kind of that, you know, the opposite of like, you know, baby rattlesnakes, where I grew up just 2 hours north of here, where, you know, there were baby rattlesnakes in the kids' bathroom in our elementary, and, you know, they kind of inject all their toxins with one bite, but the parents learn how to titrate it. So kind of different than that, but we appreciate that answer, and it's helpful when trying to have these conversations with our kids, which I think is the most important. And so here's another question that I really personally don't necessarily want to be the spokesperson for, but I'm going to ask. It is an important question. It's a question that is coming from somebody who's 9 years old, and they really do want to know. And I tried to parcel this out, make it more like politically correct, but even with all of my, you know, expertise and professional skills, I haven't been able to do that. So I do apologize. Please don't choose the messenger. Why does the new school seem like prison?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Why does, Jennifer has shared this with me before. Why does the new school feel like prison?
Yes, this is actually a legitimate question, and I can certainly speak up and ask it. I want it to be honored, and it's not a joke. I want it to be respected. This is coming from somebody who's 9 years old. This is their perception, and they're just wondering, like, why does the new school system seem so different? And you know, we can only do what we can do. This isn't a representation of the failure of what we've done at home. It's just only a representation of what we can do and what we need support from our community in terms of explaining. And maybe other people don't give a voice to their kids, but we certainly do. And this is an appropriate platform, I believe, for that.
Jennifer, if I may, I think that one of the reasons why things feel so much more constricted and feel so much more limited is because we've been put in a situation where so many of our freedoms have been taken away that we're typically used to being able to have. That as we've you know, kind of had to cope with the restrictions that the pandemic has placed on us, that our school system has reflected some of those adjustments too. And I can completely see how through the eyes of a nine-year-old who maybe going to school previously felt like it was full of joyful interaction with peers, you know, a significant amount of playtime, you know, sitting and having snacks with friends, that when some of that gets taken away, then what's left are just a lot of the have-tos that are related to school. And I've got Sonda Fruden raising her hand, and I think Sonda could make some great contributions to this conversation. Sonda.
Hi, I just have to say something because I was listening to Mrs. Mewis, and I can tell you I had some of the same thoughts when my daughter went back to school with the same restrictions that our students are going to be in. And I was really worried that it was going to feel very isolating and foreign and upsetting to her. And I could just tell you, when she got back on campus with her mask on and all of these procedures in place and all these things that she had never had to experience before, and I picked her up in the carpool line, and I said, "How was your day?" And my heart was just waiting for tears, you know, and she said, "It was great, Mom. I saw my friends and it was great." She was so happy to just be back on campus with friends, and it didn't matter. Of course, it's an uncomfortable thing for us as adults to observe, and of course it's uncomfortable for them. But on the other hand, I think being with their peers and being in the place that is theirs, which is school, it's their life, that trumped all of the anxieties that went with, you know, the precautions that we all are required to take. So I hope, Miss Jennifer, that helps you a little with your concerns, which are legitimate, but that's my observation so far. And it wasn't just my daughter, it was all the kids that I talked to and the parents I talked to.
Thank you, Sonda. And I know, Jennifer, you had more questions, so go ahead and unmute yourself again.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Fruden. Yes, I appreciate your words, and it's not that I don't have any anxieties about that. That question just really wasn't mine, and I'm just speaking on behalf and empowering somebody who's 9 in the system, right? So these, you know, the responses, I think that strangely, my 9-year-old was able to take them in, you know, even though they were adult responses. But, you know, I think to answer for myself, you know, I'm very positive and hopeful. And I think that brings me to my last question, which is, you know, when we responded initially, one child wanted, you know, we wanted to initially just keep the kids with the teachers. One teacher was distance learning, so that spoke for one. The other went back hybrid, so that spoke for the other. But now things are changing. And then on our part, we have not reached out to Mr. Keller. We're at Robert Down. So we have not reached out to inundate him any further because we have a really great respect for the teachers, the staff, as well as the administration and the board. And we don't want to, I just feel like there's a limited amount of ending and flexibility and on any hire. I don't expect anyone to be superhuman. And so, yes, for me personally, I can speak for myself. I'm a very positive kind of person. I'm like, everything's gonna be great. You'll work it out. It will be fine. But with this said, I'm glad this meeting came up because I've personally been burdened and shouldering the stress that comes along with kind of trying to weigh out and make decisions. And you know, both kids want to be back and interact with kids, with their peers, and I want to support that. So to have one kid do distance learning at home, and the other one going CM, I mean, to me, honestly, personally, as a parent, that's a nightmare. And today, many emails from the teachers, and I'm so glad I did. They're so communicative, and I love them. The staff is great. I have no complaints whatsoever. They're amazing, amazing, amazing people, and we all need, vacation, the exotic location, after this. My point being is, I today, personally, after more than a year, I kind of broke a little bit. I have a hard day, personally. I'm just going to share that. I don't mind sharing that. I don't mind being vulnerable. I don't mind speaking on behalf of a 9-year-old and putting myself out there and having people perceive that, even though when I said it wasn't me, to perceive that as my own worries. They're not my worries. I was speaking for a 9-year-old child. Those were his questions, But
Jennifer,
for me,
thank you for sharing that voice too. I think it's an important one that we got to hear. And I appreciate the comments. We have a lot more hands left, and I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to have their voice heard tonight.
all right, thanks. I appreciate it. My point being is that I today had a hard time because I cannot work and do my job from home with my clients and also do a good job of being there for my kids. And luckily, mostly it's not an issue, but today it really was. And it really highlighted, I can't have one kid doing this and one kid doing that at different times. And, I was told that, I said one thing on a survey and then another, that then it can't be changed. So I'm confused about, what are you guys really asking of us? Things keep changing all of the time. I'm so confused.
Okay.
Last thing I will say is one more thing on behalf of the teachers that I feel like don't have a voice because they work for you, so they can't really say anything. Is that I don't know. I just want to highlight that they work for the district. They're being told they have to do X, Y, and Z, and they can't really say anything. And as I look through the participants, and I just wish there was really more of a dialogue. That's all. Thank you.
Jennifer. All right, our next question is from Brendan and Jody Devine.
Good evening, Mr. Keller and Mr. Rogoman. My question is related to the Mondays and continuing with distance learning when we will be going back either hybrid or hopefully for extended day. And Mr. Keller shaking his head because I emailed it to him and gave him a heads up on it. So I'm having a hard time resolving why we need to continue with distance learning on Mondays. I heard at the beginning this question addressed, and what I understood was that we need to maintain alignment between in-person and distance learning classes. I completely appreciate that we need to, ensure that our kids get the same experience, get the same instruction, get the same tools and the same learning, whether you are distance or you are at school. And we want to make sure that, that we're following the same curriculums. It would seem that we would always be concerned if we have 3 different classes in a given, grade, that each teacher is delivering the same materials. And we don't have a distance learning day normally during the school year so that teachers can talk about that. So I'm having a hard time understanding why we just don't have our curriculum and have the goalposts that we need to meet each week and the teachers do that. And then secondly, to the extent that the teachers do need to collaborate, the school day is going to be shortened by over an hour or so. Can't the teachers get together at the end of the day every day and talk about what they did and didn't do, and so that we can maintain consistency and have the kids in school consistently Monday through Friday? Because really, I think that's what's most important, is the consistency for the kids. We've all learned to do distance learning now, and my concern is that, if they get to reach out and touch their teacher and their friends Tuesday through Friday, and then on Monday we say, oh, no, Mondays you're going to be distant. There's going to be that whole reintroduction process, that whole I'm mad at mom, I'm mad at dad, I don't want to do this anymore. And they're going to be potentially with a new teacher and learning to do distance learning with a new teacher for those last 7 weeks. So if you could just, dig into the maintaining alignment a little bit, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, well, just to kind of go back with what Jennifer was saying, both Mr. Rogoman and I have met with our staffs, and I will again be having a staff meeting tomorrow and on Thursday. So I completely trust and I really value my staff's feedback. I hope that since they've gotten to know me, I'm not an ogre, and I definitely listen to them. And trust me, they share their opinions with me. They're not shy, and I really appreciate that. And I just want the community to know that. I know Mr. Rogoman's the same way. Since this pandemic has started, we have really relied on listening to our staffs. That's basically why Mondays are the way they are. And at least from what we've discussed so far, since this has been a day and almost two, I've been in a lot of meetings today discussing this with admin and other people. I know my staff would like to still provide virtual support after the day is quote unquote over. We have obviously a contract with our teachers union and our classified union staff for certain hours of work. And the working day does end roughly at 3:30. Mr. Rogoman is the head negotiator, so he can help me with that if I'm wrong. And we just wanted to salvage a little bit of time after school for people to work with kids, for intervention teams, EL, special ed, to still have some time to organize and work with kids. And Mr. Rogoman, if you have anything to add, please.
Sure. I think that one of the things the public might not be aware of is just the amount of planning and preparation it takes to implement an educational program that is completely different than anything we've ever known before. That's the reason why we kept those Mondays open for the teachers to plan week by week, because it's not as if the program came to us in one chunk for the entire year. So our staff keeps on building the content, processing the results that they're getting from their classes, monitoring learning and discussing it with their peers so they can effectively build the lesson plans for the week that is to come. Keep in mind too that our staff went from a regular model of school to an emergency distance learning program, to building a distance learning program during the summer, to where now they'll be doing a completely different program when we make the move either to the AM/PM hybrid or we make the move to an extended day. So that Monday is absolutely critical, not only to maintain alignment, but also to give our teachers the ability to sit and plan it in a thoughtful way, what the next four days are going to be like, or the next 8 days out, and then to maintain that quality of program that we've built. The distance learning program would not have been as effective as it has been if we weren't able to have those Mondays. In terms of the day ending at 2, I think there's a combination of reasons for that. We're going to be welcoming back students who haven't been to school in a long time. And so there's going to be a little bit of endurance building that is going to have to happen with those students as well. When we first thought about this program, we thought about having the kindergarten day go until 2. And then just like Mr. Keller said, we wound up talking to our staffs, and they reminded us that those kindergarten students haven't been to school at all. And so to have them end the day at 12 seemed to be the right thing for us to do at that point. So I hope that speaks a little bit to the Monday question. And I believe our next question is from Gavin Whiteside.
So actually, I can't figure out how to get Gavin's name off. It's Jackie. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi. My question's really, if we end up going with this 9 to 2 model, will the kids still do some kind of learning either before school or after school on their Chromebooks? Or will it be more like anything they didn't finish in school they have to take home? Will there be homework, or is it safe to say that the 9 to 2 is going to kind of be very similar to what a regular school day was last year?
Jackie, to the greatest extent possible, we are going to try to get all of our instruction done in that 9 to 2 period. If there is something that a student would choose to work on at home or wanted to use any of those for virtual apps that we started to use in the distance learning program, they would have the ability to do that. But one of the things that we're trying to do as much as possible is limit the amount of homework that students have so that they can get on with getting outside and playing now that they're able to do that too.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
You bet.
Welcome, Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. Hi, Gavin. We will, just a reminder, we will have our intervention students working on their Chromebooks or their iPads in the morning.
Good point, Mr. Keller. Thank you for that. Shakira Ortiz.
Hello. So we actually just moved to PG 2 weeks ago, and we'll be starting at Forest Grove. So we've been homeschooling this whole past year, not doing distance learning. And after seeing the model that was presented to us, we decided to go to in-person school, which both of my kids, kinder and third grade, are very excited about. So I just had a couple questions. My first one, I was told previously, and I want to know if this still stands, if we do choose to come to in-person school for the extended day and we are not comfortable with what's happening, are we allowed to pull out and then go to distance learning?
Yes, you are. That one of the things that the state has mandated is that people have the ability to choose the distance learning program. So you would be able to go from a live program to distance learning. What we are limiting are people that would want to go from distance learning to face-to-face learning after the program has started.
Okay, perfect. And then my second question, just because I wasn't totally clear on this before, with the half-day model, how many students were proposed to be in every class versus how many are going to be or proposed to be in person with the extended full-day model?
Excellent question. I'm going to answer for Forest Grove because that's where you're going to be coming.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And for the AM/PM model, our groups ranged from about 8 or 9 students in a class to 11 or 12, that was the range for that AM/PM model. The range now is for the extended day, based on the same numbers, they would be anywhere from about 18 or 19 students per class to about 20, 22, I think was the highest number that we had, 22 or 23. So that would be the biggest group.
Okay, thank you.
Robert,
Yeah.
sorry, Shakira, just for the Robert Down parents that are interested in the same question, it's about half since we went from 6 feet to 3. It's basically, divided in half pretty much. We have larger classes at Robert Down, and for AM/PM, the largest class was, I believe, 15 in a kinder class, but that was a teacher who was going to do both hybrid and distance learning. And in the other classes, the highest was 13. Now our highest is 27 and 26. We got some pretty high numbers at Robert Town.
Okay, and so my last question, and I think that you answered this earlier, but I just want to clarify. So even if we switch to the extended day model, will there still be staggered first day of school start days?
Yes, that we would still phase the program in. So TK and first would start first, then we'd bring second and third, and then we'd bring fourth and fifth back.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much. I can't wait to meet the kids.
Yeah, they're very excited. So thank you.
Great. Julia J's family.
Hi, this is Alex Jenner, Julia's mom and Jimmy's mom. I have a question. Most of my questions were already answered, but I do have one from my son who's in 2nd grade. He wants to know if we go to the extended day or possibly even the hybrid, if there is an opportunity for mask breaks while the kids are outdoors.
I think the biggest mask break that students are going to be able to have is when they're eating. That's going to be a time when they're going to be able to take off their masks. If someone obviously is experiencing stress when wearing a mask or something like that, then the teacher can call the office, and either Mr. Keller or myself can walk with the student at a safe distance and allow the student to walk around with the mask off. What we're going to avoid is like a formal mask break where a group of students would have all of their masks off at the same time. But based on an individual need, that we could accommodate students that would need a break like that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Alex.
Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. Ruggman. Actually, I believe my question got answered, but I just wanted to clarify because I'm in a bubble. I oversee a kindergarten person. So if the kindergarten person chooses, before they chose to go with distant learning because of the amount of hours. So if when they take the survey, they actually choose the going back to school, but then if when it comes back that it won't be the full day and it'll be only 2 hours a day, then that parent can choose to go back to the distant learning. And then my second question is, Mr. Rogerman, if you could please keep your mindful moments, because I know my family loves your mindful moments, and if you could post them before 8 a.m. So if we have to go back to school, we really want to listen to your mindful moments before we go back to school. So just a request is all I have, but we appreciate your mindful moments. So thank you.
Laurel, thanks a lot. You know what? I think my sisters that live throughout the country are going to want me to keep the mindful moments going too. So yes, that we will absolutely keep the mindful moments going. And I just want everybody to be clear that if we wind up going with the AM/PM model, the decision that you made in the previous survey is the one that stands. Okay, and I think that is what you're asking, Laurel. Yes, that that decision that you made for the AM/PM survey would be the one that would apply to that model. And the decision that you make for the extended day program is the one that will apply to that model. All right, I got the thumbs up. Thank you, Laurel. Marissa Boynes.
Hi, this is just a follow-up again to the exposure and potential positive case. Let's say there's a positive case in the classroom and the entire class or part of the class or entire class needs to quarantine. They would then go switch to a distance learning model. Would their hybrid teacher then become their distance learning teacher in order to offset some of the workload on the full-time distance learning teacher? Has there been a discussion about that?
Yes, if it's a full cohort, it will be the hybrid teacher who will also have to go into quarantine. So they'll all be in it together.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Katowski. We got you. Oh. We need you to unmute.
Unmute it.
There we go. We got you.
I just want to thank you so much also for those mindful moments. They have meant a lot. And my little one has wanted to email you to tell you how great that has been for her. She was going to tell you the tools she uses. I wanted to just comment on the Monday sessions. And I have actually appreciated those Monday morning sessions. My little one, she is in first grade, and she has been with Mrs. McCarty and been able to have a little lighter Monday than normal. And it has really made a difference in the transition into the week. So hopefully with the new model and the changes that are involved, if the Monday morning and the Monday day program can accommodate the transition into the week and prepare the children for the week ahead, it can actually be a very positive one, and to hopefully make it positive for all the parents involved as well, because I know how that is. And coming off of a weekend and then getting ready for the week ahead, hopefully Monday will be a wonderful transition to the rest of the week in person. So if we go to that model, but I just want to thank everyone on the staff and and you, Mr. Rogerman, and the principals, Mr. Keller, for all you've been doing to move with the flexibility that we've needed during this particular time. And I happen to know what that entails. So Flexibility is the word when you have to start all over again. And I want to thank you for all the hard work that's going on. And
Thank you so much, Nancy.
and I
We
hope
really
those
appreciate
Mondays will go. I hope those Mondays will just be accommodating that fact for, especially, I now know from the parents' side of the desk what this feels like. And so those Monday transitions into the, and preparation for the week ahead will make the week ahead be very positive, and hopefully for the parents as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. You know what? One of the things I think that we've all seen is all of us have gotten better at, you know, dealing with education, you know, the way that we've had to. And so, you know, we've noticed on our end just how much better parents and homes have gotten in adjusting to using tech. So we appreciate the skill set that folks are bringing. I think we'll take Brittany's question, and then we're gonna call it a night after that so we can get the survey out. Brittany.
Really quick question. I know you guys are talking about eating lunch outside. What will happen if it's raining?
That is an excellent question. If it's raining, the actual eating of the food will still occur indoors. At Forest Grove, we're pretty fortunate that we've got a lot of overhangs and a lot of roofing. So we can still get the children out and maybe play some games that are just outside of the classroom. You know, we would have the children eat within the classrooms because we can't gather a large group of children into the multi-purpose room like we normally would for a rainy day lunch. And then we'll, you know, like I say, get them outside to do some light physical activity. And fortunately for us, it's very rare that we get like steady pounding rain for an entire lunch period or an entire day. Now, famous last words, right? I'm sure that as soon as I said that, you know, the first day that we've got lunch at school, it's just going to be raining solid the whole day through. But knock on wood, we're going to hope that we're coming into that time of the year where outdoor lunch is going to be a very viable option for the vast majority of the school year. And when it's not, they'll eat indoors. And if it's nice enough for us to get outside for any time, we will get them outside for that time. And with that, I'd like for all of you to kind of keep an eye on your email over the next 10 to 15 minutes because you are going to get that much awaited survey. Once again, we really appreciate people taking the time to come to this town hall, ask all of these thoughtful questions, and help us take our next important steps during, well, a year unlike any other. And Mr. Keller, if you want to give a couple parting comments.
Yeah, I've said it for a very long time. Thank you to parents and our students for your patience. You've been using your patience tool quite well for over a year now. And thank you to my staff and also to the Forest Grove staff and to all the staff, you know, that's out there that are educators. It's been tough, and I just thank you all for hanging in there. We feel your pain, and you know, we just want to make the best decision moving forward for the next 8 weeks. I kind of kid around, and I've told a few people it's kind of like summer camp, a little extension of summer camp, because camp is usually maybe 1 or 2 weeks. 8-week summer camp. So I hope we can all get together or get through it together. And again, just thank you so much to our Falcon and Otter communities.
Dr. Porras?
Yep, unmuted. Yes, likewise. Feeling is mutual indeed. And I, again, just appreciate everyone being here. We have some almost 210 parents, I think, at one point. And it's just amazing and wonderful to have a community that's so interested in what's happening and being involved with the students' lives and the schools. So thank you all for your patience, as we've said, and for your understanding and for your emails and for your comments and your thoughts. As Mr. Rogeman said from the beginning, this is really our attempt to try to be as transparent as possible, to try to get the word out there, to try to get as many ideas as we can. If we can move forward in a measured pace that is meaningful and productive, that's what we want to do. And we will look forward to the discussion with the board on Thursday, sharing these ideas and some of the other ideas that come forward from the staff as we proceed the next couple of days, as we make our way slowly towards having our students back in person. So thank you all so very much appreciative of everything that you do and all your support.
All right, folks, you have a great evening. We're going to get the survey out in the next few minutes. Take care.
Good night.